Hi, my name's Dianne Bilyak, and I am an author and a disability rights advocate in Connecticut. And I have a new book that came out, published by Wesleyan University Press. Right here, it's in my hand. And on the front, there's a picture of my sister and I. We grew up in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. And the book is sort of centered here in times, and that's where I am right now. And so the full title is Nothing Special, The Mostly True, Sometimes Funny Tales of Two Sisters. And the reason why it's such a long title is that sometimes my family has this issue with what we call faulty narrative syndrome, which is just another word for lying. And sometimes funny because there's parts of the book that deal with my father's addiction issues and sort of my history of anxiety-based depressions. And so it's this composite of a family, one member, which is my sister, who happens to have Down syndrome. And it's set in the starts like when we're born, 1966 or so, goes all the way until we turn 50. And I think the biggest takeaway would be that because of my father's addiction issues and my sister's Down syndrome, most people would say to me, they would say sorry when I said I had a sister with Down syndrome, but they didn't know about my father's issues. So it kind of puts the two stories and the narratives together and creates some tension around that idea of what do we feel bad about and what do we feel, what's tragic and what's comic in the world. And my sister brought a lot of joy and humor to our family and to pretty much everywhere she goes. So it explores all of those things, and I'm fond of saying now that it's the memoir of a late bloomer's coming of age story, because it took about 50 years for us to kind of get to the point where I could share some of these things and talk about them. Okay, so one of the stories that I tell in the book is that we grew up Catholic. We would go to church up on the hill here every week, and our whole family would be there. And my sister was, like I said, she had some issues around lying, as does the rest of my family. And also stealing. And so when we'd go to Mass around Christmas times, they'd have the Advent calendars ready at the back of the church, or the liturgical calendar for the year. And she would always want to steal them. She'd bring like a plastic bag with her. And so my mother and my cousin would be set up at the back of the church to kind of like football players almost, to just block her from stealing all these calendars every year. So those are just some of the stories about like managing, this need for her to have things but not to steal things from churches. And so those are some of the things that I talk about, which may be typical for other people with or without Down syndrome. But in our case, it's just not cool to steal a bunch of stuff from church.